Kelly Clarkson announces the end of The Kelly Clarkson Show after 7 seasons. The landscape of American daytime television is set to shift dramatically as Kelly Clarkson, the original American Idol and a dominant force in pop culture, prepares to close a defining chapter of her career. The multi-talented powerhouse, known for her soaring vocals and unfiltered authenticity, has officially announced that The Kelly Clarkson Show will conclude its run after its 7th season. This decision brings an end to a critically acclaimed tenure that reshaped the expectations of what a celebrity talk show could achieve. Since its premiere in 2019, the NBC daytime program established itself not merely as a promotional vehicle for celebrities, but as a genuine platform for connection, music, and storytelling. Over the course of its run, the show has been a juggernaut of critical success, amassing an impressive 24 Daytime Emmy Awards. These accolades include 4 consecutive trophies for Outstanding Daytime Talk Series and 4 straight wins for Clarkson herself as Outstanding Talk Show Host, solidifying her status as a natural broadcaster. A cornerstone of the program's identity was the Kellyoke segment, a daily musical opening where Clarkson covered songs requested by the audience, showcasing a vocal versatility that ranged from rock anthems to soulful ballads, often outshining the original recordings. However, despite the professional triumphs and the adoration of a loyal viewership, Clarkson has chosen to step away. In a heartfelt statement released on Monday, the 43-year-old artist revealed that the current season would be her last, marking the end of an era. The show will continue to air original episodes through the fall of 2026, featuring a roster of special guest hosts to round out the final season, but the woman who built the house is preparing to leave the building. The driving force behind this significant career pivot is personal, rooted in the fundamental need to prioritize her family. In her statement, Clarkson described the decision as difficult but necessary. She expressed deep gratitude to NBC, her band, and the crew in both Los Angeles and New York, acknowledging the amazing moments created over 7 years. Yet, the demands of a daily production schedule have weighed heavily against her responsibilities as a mother. By stepping away from the relentless grid of daytime television, she intends to dedicate herself fully to her children, River Rose and Remington. This announcement arrives in the wake of a profoundly challenging period for the singer. The news content confirms that Clarkson faced a tragic upheaval following the death of her ex-husband, Brandon Blackstock, in August 2025. Though the couple had finalized their divorce in 2022 after a marriage that began in 2013, they shared the co-parenting of their 2 children. Following his passing, Clarkson briefly paused production, stepping away from the spotlight to grieve and stabilize her family before returning to the air in late September 2025. It is understood that while she is leaving the talk show format, she is not retiring from public life. She plans to continue her role as a coach on The Voice and remains committed to releasing new music. But to truly understand the weight of this decision, to walk away from a thriving empire at the peak of its success, one must look back at the woman behind the microphone. Kelly Clarkson's journey has never been about taking the easy path. It has been a lifelong negotiation between the noise of the world and the truth of her own voice. Long before the polished sets of NBC or the glittering trophies of the Grammys, there was just a girl in Burleson, Texas, trying to make sense of a world that felt fractured. Her story did not begin with applause. It began with silence. Born into a humble environment, Clarkson experienced the sharp pain of her parents' divorce at a young age, a pivotal trauma that she would later channel into some of the most searingly honest pop music of her generation. Growing up, she was often the outsider, the kid who didn't quite fit the mold, harboring a voice that was too big for the small town that contained it. The road to stardom was paved with rejection and financial uncertainty. Various media sources recount the early days when she moved to Los Angeles with nothing but ambition, only to have her apartment burned down, forcing her to live in her car and eventually retreat back to Texas. It was a moment of profound defeat, the kind that breaks the spirit of most aspiring artists. She was working odd jobs, serving tables, and facing the crushing reality that perhaps her dreams were too large for her circumstances. Then came the gamble that changed everything. American Idol. In 2002, reality singing competitions were an unproven concept, a televised experiment with no guarantee of success. Clarkson entered the arena not as a polished product of the music industry, but as a raw, undeniable force. She was the guinea pig for a format that would later dominate television. Throughout that inaugural season, audience members watched a young woman battling her own nerves, standing under harsh lights, and singing for her survival. There was no blueprint for her career, no predecessor to emulate. She had to navigate the scrutiny of millions alone. When she won, the tears streaming down her face weren't just of joy, they were the release of a suffocating pressure. She had gone from invisible to the most famous face in America overnight. However, the industry that embraced her quickly tried to silence her. The narrative of Kelly Clarkson is defined by her refusal to be a puppet. In the years following her victory, she engaged in a notorious struggle for creative control, fighting executives who wanted her to simply smile and sing the hits. She risked her career to release My December, a darker, rock-infused album that spoke to her pain and anger, even when industry titans told her it would ruin her. She chose integrity over commercial safety. She faced public scrutiny regarding her weight, her image, and her choices, yet she stood firm, teaching a generation of fans that self-worth is not determined by a magazine cover. This resilience became the armor she wore through her personal life. The search for stability and love was a winding road. When she married and became a mother, it seemed she had finally found the domestic peace that had eluded her in childhood. She spoke openly about the joy of motherhood, of finally having a table to sit at where no one would leave. But life, in its cruel unpredictability, brought new storms. The dissolution of her marriage was played out in the public eye, a painful and messy unraveling that she had to navigate while hosting a daily television show. Imagine the strength required to walk onto a stage every day, to smile, to interview guests, and to uplift an audience, all while your own personal life is fracturing behind the scenes. For 7 seasons, she offered empathy to strangers, listening to their stories of hardship, often holding back her own tears. The Kelly Clarkson Show succeeded not because of the celebrity guests, but because of Kelly's radical empathy. She made people feel seen because she knew what it felt like to be invisible. She made people feel heard because she knew the pain of being silenced. The recent tragedy mentioned in the news, the death of her children's father in 2025, adds a layer of profound sorrow to this timeline. It is a stark reminder that beneath the superstar exterior lies a human being grappling with grief and the complex emotions of loss. The decision to end her show is not a retreat. It is an act of fierce protection. It is a mother looking at her children, who have lost a parent, and deciding that no amount of fame, money, or Emmy Awards is worth missing the moments that matter. In a world that constantly demands more content, more tours, more visibility, Kelly Clarkson is doing something revolutionary. She is choosing enough. She is choosing to step off the moving train. It is a decision born from the same grit that kept her going when she was living in her car, and the same integrity that made her fight for her music. She is proving that true success is not about how long you can stay in the spotlight, but knowing when to turn it off to tend to the light within your own home. As she prepares to say goodbye to the daily broadcast, fans are left not with a sense of loss, but with a deep sense of respect. We watched her grow from a shy girl in a handmade dress into a mogul who commands the industry, yet she never lost the relatability that made us vote for her 24 years ago. She remained the girl next door, even when she became the queen of daytime. The lights of the studio will eventually dim. The band will play their final note. But the legacy of Kelly Clarkson will not be defined by a TV schedule. It will be defined by a woman who conquered the world with her voice, only to realize that the most important audience she will ever have is waiting for her at the breakfast table. It is a quiet, powerful ending to this chapter. A final bow that is less about ending a show, and more about reclaiming a life.